Okay, so you know how we usually spend our time here diving deep into like whole complex histories or like dissecting dense scientific stuff? Well, this time we're going to switch gears a bit and go for something different. A deep dive, you could say, into a single story.
Single story. Yeah, a truly memorable one, I'd say.
Definitely, and unforgettable. And it's from a show that really needs no introduction. The X-Files.
Of course, a classic.
This time we're zeroing in on one of those standalone, what they call Monster of the Week episodes that I think really captures that classic X-Files magic from that very first season.
Yeah, definitely. And I think this is one that a lot of people still remember. You know, it kind of gets under your skin.
Yeah, it sticks with you. And we're talking about the episode Eve.
Oh, yeah. Good one.
So our mission, if you want to call it that, is to unpack why this episode in particular still holds up, you know, all these years later, and maybe uncover a few things about it that people might not know.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's some really interesting behind-the-scenes stuff that we can dig into, too.
Yeah, so, okay, let's set the stage here. Picture this. It's December 10th, 1993, Fox Network, Friday night prime time, and this episode, Eve, is premiering for the very first time.
Wow, yeah. Talk about taking you back.
I know, right? So it's the 11th episode of the first season, written by Kenneth Biller and Kritz Brancato, and directed by Fred Gerber.
And it actually got a really positive reception from critics, you know, for a Monster of the Week episode that's not tied into the whole mythology arc. It really made an impact.
Yeah, and the ratings reflect that too, like 6.8 Nielsen rating, which translates to about 6.4 million households tuning in live.
That's pretty huge for that time, especially.
Yes, absolutely. All right, so now let's dive into the episode itself, the actual story.
Okay, let's do it.
So it opens with a scene in Greenwich, Connecticut, seemingly normal morning. A couple's out for a jog, and they stumble upon something truly disturbing.
Oh, yeah, I remember this part.
It's young Tina Simmons just standing there silently by a swing set, but that's not the worst of it. On the swing next to her is her father dead.
Oh, gosh, yeah, with those really strange wounds, right?
Yeah, they describe it as significant blood loss, what they call hypovolemia, but the wounds themselves are really unusual.
Yeah, and then there's Tina's explanation, right? Like, she's in shock, but she starts talking about red lightning and these men from the clouds who wanted to basically drain her father of all his blood.
Yeah, it's so creepy, right? Like, you have this innocent child in this ordinary setting, but then this horrific scene, and her words are just so strange and unsettling.
It's like that classic X-Files blend of the ordinary and the utterly bizarre, and it immediately grabs you and pulls you into the mystery.
Right, and then it gets even weirder because at that exact same moment, thousands of miles away in Marin County, California, a virtually identical crime scene is discovered.
No way, seriously.
Yep. Doug Reardon, same cause of death, hypovolemia, at the same time as the murder in Connecticut.
Okay, now that's just too freaky to be a coincidence.
Exactly. And, you know, Mulder and Scully obviously get called in to investigate, and right away they sense that something is deeply wrong here.
Of course. Because how can you have two murders happening simultaneously like that across the entire country? It defies logic.
Absolutely. So they head to California to interview the victims, wife and daughter, and that's when things take a truly shocking turn.
Yeah, this is where the episode really starts to mess with your head.
Because Cindy Reardon, the daughter, is the spitting image of Tina Simmons back in Connecticut.
Like identical twins?
More than that, it's like they're the same person, and it turns out that Cindy was conceived through in vitro fertilization at a clinic in San Francisco.
Okay, so now we're getting into some real X-Files territory.
Yeah.
You know, genetic manipulation, government conspiracies, that kind of thing.
Right. So Scully, being the skeptic she is, starts digging into this clinic, and she uncovers the story of Dr. Sally Kendrick, who used to work there.
Wasn't she like brilliant, but also kind of shady?
Exactly. She had a Yale medical degree and a doctorate in biogenetics, but she was fired from the clinic because they suspected her of conducting some really unethical experiments with ova.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so we're talking eugenics, right?
Yeah. That's right. Like trying to manipulate genes to create like a superior race.
See, that's where it starts to get really creepy and disturbing. You know, this idea that someone might be trying to control human evolution for their own twisted purposes.
And of course, Mulder picks up on this immediately too. He gets one of his cryptic phone calls from Deep Throat.
Oh, yeah. A guy who always knows more than he lets on.
Right. And Deep Throat drops a bombshell. He tells Mulder about these super secret Cold War experiments called the Litchfield experiments.
What were those about?
Basically, it was the U.S. government's response to the Soviets, who were doing their own eugenics research at the time.
Oh, so like a Cold War science race.
Exactly. And these Litchfield experiments were all about creating genetically modified clones. Boys were codenamed Adam, and girls were Eve.
Okay, yeah, now we're getting to the heart of it. So basically, these girls, Tina and Cindy, are part of this whole secret government cloning program.
That's what Mulder starts to suspect. And to make matters even more complicated, Deep Throat sets up a meeting for them with one of the original adult Eve clones, Eve 6, who's been institutionalized in a mental hospital.
Oh, wow. So they actually get to meet one of these clones face to face.
Yep, and it's a really unsettling encounter. Eve 6 is like the shell of a person, and she looks a lot like Dr. Sally Kendrick, which is another weird clue.
Wait, so the disgraced scientist and this clone look alike? That's got to be significant.
It is, and Eve 6 explains that the Eve clones were engineered to be different. They have 56 chromosomes instead of the usual 46.
Why would they do that?
Well, according to Eve 6, it was supposed to make them stronger and more intelligent, but it also made them highly prone to psychosis and even suicidal tendencies.
Oh, wow. So it's like they created these superhumans, but at a terrible cost.
Exactly, and Eve 6 also reveals that she's one of the last 3 Eves left alive. There's her Eve 7, who escaped as a child and became Dr. Sally Kendrick, and then there's Eve 8, who disappeared years ago and nobody knows where she is.
Okay, so we've got 3 Eves running around, and 2 of them are connected to these murders. It's all starting to come together, but it's still so twisted.
Yeah, and this is where Mulder puts together his theory. He believes that Eve 7, who's posing as Dr. Kendrick, cloned herself to create Tina and Cindy.
Wow, so these girls are like her own personal mini-me's.
In a way, and Mulder thinks that Eve 7 and possibly Eve 8 working together are the ones who killed the fathers.
But why would they do that? Like, what's the motive here?
That's the big question, but things start to escalate quickly. Even with the FBI watching over her, Cindy gets abducted from her home.
Oh man, so they're not safe anywhere.
Nope. And it turns out that Eve 7 took Cindy to a motel where she's also holding Tina captive.
So they're all together now. The creator and her creations. What happens next?
Well, it's a pretty chilling scene. Eve 7. She basically explains to the girls that she cloned them using her own genetic material because she thought she could improve on the original Litchfield program.
Oh, so she's trying to play God in a way.
Yeah, but she quickly realized that her creations were even more dangerous than the original Eves. They were developing homicidal tendencies at an accelerated rate.
Oh, wow. So her attempt to fix things just backfired spectacularly.
And what's really creepy is that the girls seem to have this strange connection with each other. When Eve 7 asks them how they knew about each other and how they managed to plan these murders across state lines, they both just say, "We just knew."
That's so creepy, just like that chillingly matter-of-fact way they say it. It's like they're not even fully human.
Right, it's like they share some kind of hive mind or something.
Yeah, it definitely suggests a level of connection that's beyond our understanding.
So anyway, the situation at the motel takes a dark turn. The girls decide to get rid of Eve 7. They poison her drink with foxglove.
Wow, just like that. No hesitation.
Nope. And when Mulder and Scully arrive at the motel, they find Eve 7 dead. And the girls tell this really convincing story about how she and Eve 8 were trying to force them into a suicide pact.
Oh man, these girls are good. They're master manipulators.
Right. And the danger isn't over yet. Later, Mulder and Scully stop for a bite to eat at a truck stop diner, and Cindy tries to poison them too.
No way, seriously. She almost got away with it again.
He almost did. She'd put something in their sodas, but Mulder forgot his keys at the counter, and when he went back, he saw the poison in the drinks.
Oh, wow. So close call.
Yeah, and then the girls take off running. They escape into the truck stop, but Mulder eventually catches them.
Thank goodness. But what happened to the girls after that?
Well, they ended up being placed in the same psychiatric ward as Eve 6. Now they're labeled as Eve 9 and Eve 10.
So they're locked up, but are they really contained? I mean, who knows what's going on in their heads?
And that's what makes the ending of this episode so unsettling. Because just when you think it's over, this woman in a lab coat walks into the ward.
Wait a minute. Is that?
It's Eve 8, the one who's been missing all this time. And the girls recognize her immediately. They just stare at her with this eerie calmness. And when she asks them how they knew she would come for them, they just say, "We just knew."
Man, that ending gives me chills every time.
Yeah.
It's like the threat is still out there lurking in the shadows.
Exactly. It's like they're all connected somehow, these Eves, and we only got a glimpse of how deep this conspiracy goes.
And it leaves you with so many questions. Like, what's Eve 8 gonna do with them? Are there more Eves out there that we don't know about? It's really unsettling.
Okay, so now let's shift gears a bit and talk about some of the behind-the-scenes stuff that went into making this episode, because there's actually quite a few interesting tidbits.
Oh yeah, I'm always up for some trivia.
So originally, the writers Kenneth Biller and Chris Brancato, they actually pitched the episode with a different title, The Girls from Greenwich.
Interesting. So it was more focused on the twins aspect from the beginning?
Yeah, and they were really inspired by this book and movie called The Boys from Brazil, which is about a Nazi hunter who uncovers a plot to clone Hitler.
Oh, wow. So they took that concept of cloning and genetic manipulation and really made it their own for the X-Files.
Exactly. And here's a fun little detail for you. The characters of Tina and Cindy, they were actually named after the wives of Glenn Morgan and James Wong.
Who are they?
They were writers on the X-Files too, and they actually did an uncredited rewrite on the script for Eve.
Oh, wow. So it's like a little hidden tribute in the episode.
Yep, pretty cool, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And Eve also holds a unique distinction in the history of the X-Files. It's the only episode that was directed by Fred Gerber.
Why is that?
Well, Chris Carter, the creator of the show, he apparently thought that Gerber brought a really unique style to the episode, which definitely contributed to its creepy atmosphere.
Yeah, I can see that. It's definitely a visually striking episode.
And speaking of visuals, casting the twins was a bit of a challenge for the producers. They originally started looking for actresses in LA.
But something went wrong.
Yeah, child labor laws in California are really strict, so it was proving to be very difficult to find twins who could work the required hours.
That makes sense.
So they ended up going to Vancouver, British Columbia, and that's where they found Erica and Sabrina Crevens, who were perfect for the roles.
And they really do look so much alike. It's kind of eerie.
It is, and, they even considered using just one actress and then using special effects to create the illusion of twins.
Really? Wow, that would have been a different episode.
Yeah, but thankfully they decided against it. They realized it would have been too expensive and probably wouldn't have looked as realistic.
Yeah, I think they made the right call.
Yeah.
Casting actual twins was definitely the way to go.
Absolutely. And it's those little details that really make the episode so effective.
Like what else?
Well, like the location they used for the truck stop diner, it was a real cafe in White Rock, British Columbia.
Oh, wow, I never knew that.
Yep, the production designers chose it because of its isolated rural look, which really adds to that sense of unease in the scene.
Yeah, it makes you feel like Mulder and Scully are really out in the middle of nowhere, vulnerable.
Exactly. And here's a piece of trivia that I find really amusing. The band Eve 6, they actually got their name from this episode.
No way, seriously.
Yep, apparently one of the band members was a huge fan of the X-Files and thought the episode was so cool that they named their band after it.
That's amazing. Talk about an unexpected legacy.
Right. And for those of you who want to dive even deeper into the story of Eve, there's a young adult novelization of the episode that was published in 1997.
Oh, wow. So it went beyond just the TV screen.
Yeah, it was written by Ellen Steiber, and it expands on the events of the episode a bit.
That's cool. Might have to check that out.
Yeah, it's worth a read. And before we wrap things up, I think it's worth mentioning that while Eve 7 is presented as the villain of the episode, there's another way to interpret her character.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, some viewers see her as being the only truly benevolent Eve in the story.
What do you mean?
Well, think about it. She saw the dark path that the other Eves were headed down, and she tried to stop it.
Yeah, but she created Cindy and Tina in the first place. Doesn't that make her responsible for their actions?
Sure, but you could argue that she was trying to correct the mistakes of the past. She wanted to create Eves who wouldn't be prone to violence and psychosis.
Yeah, I guess I can see that. It adds another layer to her character.
Right, so maybe she wasn't evil. Maybe she was just misguided and ultimately a victim of her own creations.
Yeah, it's definitely food for thought. It makes you wonder if there's ever a way to truly control the power of genetics. Like, can we really play God without unleashing something dangerous?
Exactly. And that's one of the things that makes Eve such a powerful episode. It raises these really big questions about science ethics and the nature of humanity.
And it does it in a way that's both entertaining and thought-provoking.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So as we come to the end of this deep dive into Eve, I think it's safe to say that it's one of the most memorable and disturbing episodes of The X-Files.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It really sticks with you.
And it's a testament to the show's ability to create truly chilling standalone stories that tap into our deepest fears.
Yeah, like the fear of the unknown, the fear of science gone wrong, and even the fear of our own children.
Exactly. And one last thing to think about. Eve first aired back in 1993. What were people's anxieties about genetic engineering back then? And how do those anxieties resonate with us today in a time when technology is advancing at such a rapid pace? It's a question worth pondering.
Definitely. It makes you wonder what kind of future we're creating for ourselves and what unintended consequences might be lurking around the corner.
Well, on that note, I think we'll leave it there. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the dark and twisted world of Eve. It's been a real trip down memory lane.
Yeah, it has. And it's a reminder that even though it's been years since this episode aired, it still has the power to creep us out and make us think.
Absolutely. So until next time, keep watching the skies and remember the truth is out there.
And sometimes it's more terrifying than we could ever imagine.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.